Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Okay, I think the mic's working. Okay, I think this thing is saying Minecraft. This is all done by the Xbox. On this, I don't think I have any control over it. It should be picking up whatever the game is, so I apologize. And it's doing that thing where this is probably why it's screwing up the game. It's saying connecting. Yeah, hang on, let me go. Yeah, I've got no option to change the game in here. Oh well. But it's doing that thing I was doing. It was like I don't know, it was like last week or something, where it just said connecting the whole time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna at least play Diablo, and then when I get done doing that, I'll end the stream, and then I might do a Minecraft stream today. I don't know. I think I'm feeling better than yesterday, but I'm not doing as good as I was 2 days ago. That's for damn sure.
Break beneath the endless tide. I must wait to use that ability.
Oh, I must have killed the thing. It's already gone. Okay, now I am not gonna lie. I have been, most of you know this, but I have been a huge fan of Skinwalker Ranch since the show started. The thing that got me, and I don't know, maybe it just wasn't widely advertised, but you know, I've been kind of following this. You know, okay, I'm not a Stanton Freeman. I haven't done the work that like George Knapp and others, but I've kind of followed this kind of shit since the 80s. And it doesn't bother me that I didn't know that much about the ranch. It bothers me I'd never even heard of it. That was the part that kind of got me. I'm like, oh my God, you know, as much as I've paid attention to this, I kind of feel it, you know, like a character flaw that I never even, you know, but maybe it was something that just wasn't widely talked about. I don't know. But I was just stunned. And then, you know, even like the first couple seasons, oh, it might be a shitty day today. The sun is kind of winking behind the clouds out there. But no, some of the stuff that was happening early on, you know, certain people, when you talk to them about it, they were getting freaked out. It's like, yeah, this, you know, and they didn't have any time anomalies or it was just like, yeah, weird radiation spikes, you know, because that was something that had happened. There was one of the scientists on the ranch. He got hit with a high dose of radiation, They never referred to it as lethal, but it caused a couple radiation burns. He had one on his hand and he had one on his head, and anything on your head like that's not a good thing. There was
A vicious strike.
I don't think I'm giving anything away. I don't think anybody's going to mark me for terminate on site on this, but the martial arts that I did, they're, and I say that plural because it happened with more than one of them. And I've seen it in other arts or sports or whatever you want, and usually it's sports. You would get these people, because there's certain things I trained, you couldn't really spar it. And there were good reasons for it. It's the same way, you know, the military doesn't spar with live ammo. You know, you just, you know, even in the cases where people have done things maybe they shouldn't, and if they get caught, they can be held accountable. They're not actually shooting you on purpose with live rounds during training. You know, they might shoot at you. They might want to, and again, that's usually frowned upon. And if somebody does get hurt, or if the wrong person sees it, you know, that could end up at least ending somebody's career, maybe putting them in jail. But you know, you didn't have your drill sergeants fucking lining you up and plugging you on the fucking training sites, you know. And there's a lot of people out there, they don't understand. And the one of the things, now this,
I am returning to town.
because and this goes back to Bruce Lee. This is something he figured out. He always, this is the way I think it came from him. I think it's a quote that if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think it was attributed to him. You want to make your sparring like play, and you want to make your training more like sparring. And he was just not that big of a fan on sparring, you know. And one of the guys, and I think he was assisting people, but like some of my instructors, they basically got tapped. I think they worked with the Dallas Cowboys, and I can't remember the guy's name. He was no, I'm not a football person, but if you were a football person, even if you weren't a Dallas fan, you knew who this guy was. I think his last name was White. Not Reggie White from the Packers. This would have been a guy, and I don't remember if he was I don't remember if he was a quarterback or a linebacker or whatever. But he actually, the one Muay Thai instructor, he actually kind of got into that. Because the thing that I guess impressed him was they had one of these big football players, and they had him crouched down, so there's a little bit of a trick to it, but they had him crouched down, and then what they did was he was basically holding the Thai pads, and he, you know, and my understanding is, I wasn't there, he did not think he was going to go down. He figured as big and as strong as he was, he could absorb it, and the Thai boxing instructor, when he hit the pads, this guy went flying. And, but again, you know, if he'd have been standing up, yes, he'd have been able to hold it. But he basically squatted down, his butt was near his ankles, and he just figured as much mass as he had. He could not believe that little 130, 140 pound guy fucking knocked him back the way he did. And because he was trying to show how, you know, that, you know, yeah, the kick might, you know, the kick looks like it looks, but it has an effect. And they were showing him hand drills and all this other stuff. Well, one of the things this instructor, and like I said, I don't know, I think he might have been helping, but it might have just been something like he heard about it like I did. I don't know. But the thing he was talking about was at a certain point, and I don't know if it was before that or after that, But the NFL, because he was talking, back in the day, and I think this would have been when I was a kid. This would have been your Terry Bradshaw era and them. They used to run these scrimmages. It's the football equivalent of sparring. It's where the defensive team and the offensive team are battling it out. And he said that for pro football, it was the equivalent of sparring. They would run these scrimmages where offense against defense, and then they would see how it worked. And then I want to say it was late 80s or somewhere in the 90s, and I might be wrong. I heard this story and they weren't given dates. None of us really cared about the dates. I still don't, but I'm just trying to be accurate and honest with you guys. But what happened was they found out that doing scrimmaging all the time just wasn't that useful, so they started doing drills. And it kind of flipped. Like before, it was mostly scrimmaging and a little bit of drills, and then afterwards it was mostly drills and a little bit of scrimmaging, and they found the results were better. And so he said, for those of you that are football fans, try to learn from this. He goes, sparring is okay. If you are a sparring person and you like sparring, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You need a little bit of it. But he said, your drills are probably more important. And, but there's people out there, like some of the arts that we did, like Muay Thai does this, Savat does this, Kali does this. You work off a body. Like with Muay Thai, there were drills we did, and then the way we did it at the seminar, and it was probably completely different if you went out and actually trained with him at his school, and if you went to, and I ended up going to a student of a different Thai boxing instructor, and they were a little bit different. So it's like, again, everybody's got their own little flavor, but they would basically first work the pads. And when we went to these seminars, and what was funny is, before my health went, when I transferred down to Indiana, I didn't have to take care of my dad's Alzheimer's as much as I had been. So I was able to start doing stuff like go on vacations again and stuff like that. Well, 2-3 years in a row, I went out and it was really, just going there was like a fucking dream come true. I had always dreamed about going to this guy's school, and to go there for 4 or 5 days, it was a real treat. And it doesn't really matter who or what or why or whatever, but for me it was like a really same thing when I went out and got my instructorship under the one guy, just going out there. Now, I didn't expect to, I kind of wanted to, but I kind of figured they'd start me out as an apprentice or whatever, and I really didn't care. It just going out there was kind of a big deal for me, and he ended up starting me out in the middle. I think if I'd have been in better shape, he'd have made me a full instructor, because he was commenting about how fucking bad of shape he wasn't lying. But because there was a guy there that was a full instructor, and this guy was just like, what the fuck, because there was a lot of stuff I was doing better than him. But I think the main reason I got held up is because I was in such horrible shape. And you know what? I deserve it.
I cannot open this.
Not feeling bad about it at all. It is what it is. And I could be wrong, but that was my impression. And when I was out there at the school, they had that Thai boxing instructor there. And I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the guys, like when I went out for my instructorship, we got talking about stuff. And the one guy that was there, this was that full instructor, he was a really nice guy. He was out there with his girlfriend or whatever. And but he wasn't 100% sure, but he honestly thought that Thai boxing instructor was like part of the royal family. he was related to the king or something like that, because he said, well, yeah, he goes, I saw him the one time, and I saw this too, where, you know, like somebody, I don't know if it was him or his mother, but everybody signed like a birthday card for him, and he basically said he was going to take it to the king. But this was after I had heard. I really have no idea, but that one guy's, yeah, I think he's actually part of the royal family, and I'm like, what? You know, because they never said anything, and you know, and he now granted, he's got a pretty good sense of humor. I ain't gonna lie, and if he was anybody else, it probably wouldn't have been tolerated. But because like he like he never did anything to me like this. I never really saw him do it. I always heard, so maybe people were making things up. I don't know. But like there was a thing where somebody, you know, they were all out to eat, and somebody was sitting right next to him. Well, they got up to go to the bathroom, and he just fucking piled on hot sauce to the guy's food. And when he got back, he sort of figured out who did it, and he was just trying to and I wouldn't have been able to do it. If it was that bad, I would have had to tell him, I go, hey, look, there's a whole bunch of hot sauce on here. I can't eat this, you know. And I would have, even if I didn't eat, I'd just be like, take it away. I can't eat this. It's too hot. And but this guy, he choked it down. And you know, but there were little things like this he did that, you know, but the thing is, on certain things, he was like no nonsense. Like he accidentally, and I mean, it wasn't even that bad, but he accidentally clipped somebody with an elbow while they were demonstrating something, and you could tell he literally felt bad. It wasn't one of those. I mean, you know, he was a pretty decent guy. He had some things, and when you find out if he, you know, maybe he grew up as part of the royal family, that would explain some of his oddness or some of the stuff he did. But hang on, let me go check here. Okay, I'm not sure. I think I might be on 4. Yeah, okay, we're good. And but you know, that was the thing, you know, this guy was explaining, you know, and then you always had these newer people. And it you know, it's like every generation, you know, and like one of my instructors, he was like that. And I gotta be completely honest, I was exposed to some of this infant level. Nowhere near, because I can tell you, like when I was like 18, I went out. A friend of mine was out there training with him, and I went out and got to meet him and meet some of his senior students, and like they're you know, there was levels of acceptance, and I mean this in a really good way. And my buddy and his friends, they fucking looked out for me. There was this guy, I think his name was Charles, and all I'm gonna say is there was like if you, and I'm not gonna mention names because it isn't, but for those that would, if you know who I'm talking about, or if you suspect who I'm talking about, this group, everybody that trained under the main guy, and he was one of Bruce Lee's students, they all got like an exposure to the arts. It was, you know, this guy, he basically said like, hey, look, if you're gonna train JKD, you gotta learn it all. And he goes, and when you teach people, he goes, you should really teach everything. Even the stuff you don't like, even the stuff you're not good at. You should at least expose your people to it. And the way he explained it, he goes, let's just say that JKD was 10 things. And you like 6 of them. And so that's all you show people. He goes, then what's going to happen is if you become popular and you have a bunch of students, people are going to think that JKD is only 6 things. And then when your students become instructors and they start training people, let's say of those 6 things, they only like 4. So that's all they're going to teach. And they learned it from you. You only teach the stuff you're good at. You only teach the stuff you like. He goes, then their students are going to think there's only 4 things. And I fear we may be getting to that. I really do. And, oh, I guess I must have found the first chest. Oh yeah, here it is. I'll right by it. And he goes, and pretty soon you're going to get down to where, you know, people are only going to be thinking it's 1 or 2 things because you're not teaching it all. And he had these guys.
Not enough spirit.
One of them, and again, they were all given the basics. They all had a pretty good understanding of things. I might go to Minecraft now. I don't want to lose this character. My health is going down pretty fucking bad. But he had one guy who was a pretty good boxer. Really good boxer. He had another guy that was a pretty good boxer too, but he was, I think most people would understand him as kind of the grappling expert. He passed away like a day before my birthday, a number of years ago. I don't really feel happy on my birthday anymore. And I didn't know him that well. We went and saw him like every year, but he was just one of those totally decent human beings. I mean, he had a side you didn't want to see, but like as long as he was being treated with respect and everything was going good, he was just one hell of a nice guy. He really was. And nope. And then he had one guy that kind of specialized, and this is the guy who I was talking about, where I went out and kind of saw his school. My buddy was training, but he was kind of the grappling, or not the grappling, but like trapping expert. He, I mean, and again, he was a pretty good boxer. He was a pretty good kickboxer, because I think he had, before he got into Jeet Kune Do, he had at least one art which he got to be something in the black belt range, and it was predominantly kicking. And I don't know how much, because he also got like the equivalent. I don't know if it was technically a black belt, but it was the instructor rank in this tiger crane kung fu thing or something like that. And he got the instructor rank in that. And I don't know how much kicking was in that. But then after he got into Jeet Kune Do, he took Savate. And so he had a pretty good kicking background. And but he was mostly known for trapping. And that's, if you don't know what that is, that's a range like closer than boxing. And it kind of meshes with grappling, but it's basically right before you end up on the ground, or right before you get into a headlock or something like that. It would be like you basically elbows, knees, headbutts, smashing somebody's head into the wall. The trapping range is in there. And he was known for that. Well, then, now this guy you might know, he's actually famous, so I don't mind, but Jeff Amata, he kind of excelled at some of the weapons. This is a guy, he had a bit part in Big Trouble in Little China. There was a Batman, oh God, I think this is like the older ones, like the Michael Keaton, that era, not necessarily the one with Michael Keaton, but back then, before the Christopher Nolan. But he did a bit part in one of those where he was doing the Bali song. Some people call it the butterfly knife, where he was flipping it around. That guy was just incredible. Absolutely fucking incredible. And, they all had their little specialty. And, well, anyways, we were at one of these seminars, and Bruce Lee's student, he was kind of letting people know, hey,
I see riches ahead.
he was letting people know, because there was a group out there, and I want to be clear, you know, I can't stress this enough. There were people out there that didn't understand that there was a reason why people trained a certain way. And like that one guy, now this was when it was like the late 80s. I was just getting out of high school, and this is when I first got into this stuff. And I never went through this hardcore. I went through it a little bit more than most normal people did in our area. And some of the people you saw at seminars, some of the people at seminars went through it a lot more than I did. It just depends. And he was not alone, because now this would have been the guy that was considered like the grappling expert. We were at one of his seminars, and he had us doing, I can't remember, I think we used to call them sparring drills, and I might be wrong, but what they were and like,
this fight is over.
I honestly think that they were one of the most valuable things you could do, and we did them for a while. But when I got back into it, after like I had a bad injury to my knee, and I got so flustered because every now and then I would bang up my knee and I just couldn't use it. Sometimes it would be bad enough I'd have to take, you know, a few days off of work until the ibuprofen and everything else, you know, helped and got it to where I could walk on it again. And all I'm gonna say is,
your flaws are revealed.
There are people in the martial arts that want to train with you, and there's people in the martial arts that want to train on you. And I don't care how nice the person is. I don't care if they're your instructor. I don't care if you're your best friend.
I don't have enough spirit.
I don't care who it is. If you find yourself in a place like that, you should get the fuck away from them as fast as you can. If they're a decent guy, you can still hang out with them, just don't train with them.
The outskirts of
and if it's stuff that starts happening when you're out and about, then just cut them off. Don't have anything, because it's just not worth you getting into an injury over it. It just isn't.
Those
I need spirit.
are trapped in a distant world, never to be seen again.
But anyways, you know, but that it basically was not a training incident. It wasn't something that happened when I got into a fight. It was something that happened when I was out and about with friends, and it never should have happened. And I can tell you for a fact, the person involved didn't mean to do it. He literally didn't mean to do it. And in a lot of ways, he was more mature than I was. But in this, he was just a childish little fuck. And I ended up paying for it. That's all there is to it. And I had all these seminar certificates, and I was so pissed off that my knee, I had these knee problems. I ended up throwing all them out because I figured I was done. And then a number of years ago or later, many years later, I started finding out that, you know, okay, I couldn't do everything, but there were things I could start doing again. And then I'm like, and I went looking for them, and I'm like, oh man, I must have thrown them out when I was really pissed off.
I don't have enough spirit.
And yeah, you want to get the fuck away from that. And you know, and if you gotta do something else, you gotta do something. If you're in a small town, maybe you just can't train that anymore. I don't know, but you just can't. You know, and the worst part about it is there was somebody else there. There was somebody else there, and this would have been before my time, like probably 10, 15 years before. But they had somebody there who was, you know, and then, you know, at the black belt range. And this was not Jeet Kune Do. This would have been like a karate, taekwondo school, that kind of thing. But they had this older guy And he was you know, I don't know that he was an instructor, but he had that rank. He was black belt rank. And there was a guy, he was a good friend of mine. He's the one who kind of got me into martial arts. And I wasn't there. I can only tell you what I heard. If what I heard was wrong, then this is wrong. But I think it's useful to this discussion. But this guy that I was friends with, he was at least, if not more of a smartass than I was. Really good guy. And
Not enough spirit.
he
I am returning to town.
he would always basically do stuff. Well, this guy beat the fuck out of him, and you know, and I really don't know if it had been something where it was openly declared it's on. My friend would have probably been able to defend himself a little bit better, but the other guy was just not a very good guy, and he didn't like the other guy joking around, and he just started wailing on him. Not very honorable. And there was something going. He kind of reacted to me because that's why I heard the story. That's the only reason I heard the story. Is this guy had made some kind of smart-ass comment to me, and I basically shut him down. Well, then he came up and had some words with me, and I was warned, and they said, look, they go, just stay away from him. They go, we're not telling you what to do, but just don't get too close to him. And they said, we're going to kind of keep an eye on it, and if it gets bad, we'll do what we can. And they sort of let me know. They didn't go into detail. I found that out from somebody else, but they kind of let me know. They go, yeah, he kind of teed off on somebody a number of years ago, and they go, you know him. It's your friend. And also then when my friend had gone out to California and been training at that guy's school, he came home, and the guy that warned me, I heard him talking to someone else, and they're like, yeah, I wonder if he wants to go fuck with him now. They made, because he came back after being out there. And what was funny is, I don't think they needed to do too much more, because this was when I was first starting out. And the funny thing was, me and a friend, it was one of my friends since 3rd grade, we started doing this, and when we got there, we couldn't do a whole lot. But like 6 months after we were training in this, they had this, every month they'd have this sparring night with the Taekwondo people or the karate people, whatever it was. And after like 6 months, with the exception of the black belts, the rest of them couldn't really do a whole lot to us. Didn't matter if it was from that school or the one there was one out of town. So there was a school that was in the town south of us, and it was the same thing with them. After a year, the newer black belts couldn't really fuck with us. Now the ones that had been black belt, and regardless of what their rank was, the ones that had been black belts for like 6 months or for like 3 years or more, they could at least hold our own. They could cause us problems, and all I used it for was trying to get in the trapping range. I would just basically go in, trap them up, and then let them go. You couldn't punch them in the head, you couldn't kick them in the leg. So what I would do is I would just basically, when they would throw kicks, I would get in on the kicks, I would neutralize their hands, and then I'd go back out. And that's mostly what I did, And after like 6 months, most of them couldn't do too much to us. After a year, more of them couldn't do anything to us. And what got me was, now this was actually a good time, but it was one of the guys who'd been a black belt for 3, 4, 5 years. Well, I got right in on him and trapped him up. And again, in a fight, you wouldn't stop. You'd be hammering the guy until he passed out. But I got in and trapped him up, and the next thing I know, I felt his foot come across my face. He did one of those crescent kicks, and it didn't knock me out, but it surprised the shit out of me. I got kind of mad. I go, how the hell did you do that? And he started smiling. He was a pretty good guy. He started smiling. He goes, well, I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. He was a pretty good-natured guy. And But he was just smiling in that, and
I did not know.
cleanse the cursed chest. Well, anyways, to get back to the story, I'll try and get onto the UFO stuff. I really, I might save that for the Minecraft, because I already did the one thing, and I think I am gonna cancel this and go into Minecraft. I think what I'm gonna do, and I'll see how I feel after this, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get another bounty. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go in and do a. Not sure if I'm going to go do all those, the thing with Auric, I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if I'm going to do that. Oh, I might have finally got to level 70.
You are defeated.
Because like yesterday, I didn't even bother trying this because I was worried. And like I said, I'm doing better than yesterday, but I don't know by how much. But they've got people out there, and I really hope I don't. Again, I'm not telling you who it is, but some people might know, but I'm not telling you who it is. There was one of my instructors, and when I went out to test for my instructor's certificate. It was like a weekend thing, and you either did it or you either got it or you didn't. But like I said, he didn't start me out at the beginning level. He started me out at the intermediate. But God, I wish I still had my helmet. And that fucking sucks. And I don't know if I'm gonna keep on. I just want I'm just worried it's gonna make me sad talking about this, but. Well, anyways, he, he started doing, like I said, I can't remember, it was either Taekwondo or Karate. I should know, but I just don't have it at the top of my head. But he did this, and, what happened was, he got his black belt, and it wasn't really what he wanted.
I don't have enough spirit.
He kind of grew up in a bad area, and he was not looking to become at one with the universe. He basically wanted to, basically be safe. I don't want to repeat what he said, but he basically just wanted to have a safe and peaceful existence. And it wasn't what he wanted. He wasn't getting anything from it. And so then he started doing the Kung Fu. And again, he was very gifted. He was very talented. Well, within a year, he was instructor level on that. He had earned it. And then the guy that owned the school stuck him with teaching everybody. And he,
I need spirit.
it was, and the thing was, he didn't like teaching kids. He said it was all, they were all a bunch of little kids running around pinching each other in the ass, and he basically, since he was in charge and he canceled the kids class. And I think he said that something like 6 months or a year later, the school was going under because the kids class is what paid the fucking bills, so that, that pretty much ended that. And then he did say, he goes, look, I never claimed to be a businessman. He goes, that was a bad choice. He goes, if I had it to do over again, he goes, I probably wouldn't have done it. But he goes, I really didn't like teaching kids. Bunch of little spoiled little brats and shit. You know, he just, you know, it wasn't his thing. And well, then he tried out, and it was a different. I don't even know if it was in the same area. I think roughly it was, but I don't know that it was in this. I think it was in a certain location. I don't think that's where the school is now.
This fight is over.
And what happened was he showed up, and there was like a 6-month or a year waiting list to get in there. You had to get on a waiting list to get in. But what they did was, when the weather was good, and it was Southern California, which was most days, you could actually go there and train, I think, for free on Saturdays. And
I need to go back.
and he was telling this story. And he got there, and he didn't know if he wanted to get on the waiting list, because he didn't know if it was something he was going to want to do. He was trying to figure it out. And so he you know, again, it was open training, and some people were sparring, some people were training, you know, that kind of. So he decided to spar. And he got in there with somebody who knew what they were doing, and the way he explained it, he jumped up and hit the dude in the face with a back fist. And this is the way he told the story. He goes, the next thing I knew, I was waking up on the ground. It's the parking lot. It's asphalt or cement. He goes, yeah, the next thing I knew, I was waking up on the ground. And he goes, everybody was standing around like, whoa, what's going to happen? And he said the first thing he said when he opened his eyes was, sign me up for the waiting list or whatever. He and then, you know, the other thing he said was that he did it for like 6 months or a year. And technically he was proficient. The stuff they were showing him how to do, he could do it. But the thing is, when he would actually, like, I can't remember if somebody else came up with this or if our group came up with it. We used to refer to getting into fights as field training, especially if you were drunk. But yeah, we would call it that, field training. I don't know if we picked it up from somebody else or if that was kind of our concoction. But he was basically talking about field training. He would go out and field train it, and it wasn't working for him. And the guy in question that ran the school, he said, well, we have these things called attributes. And he goes, doesn't matter what martial art you learn, if you don't develop those attributes, you're going to run into this no matter where you go. And he goes, I got a suggestion. I would just like you to trust me, and I would like you to take the weapons classes for like 6 months or a year. And I don't remember if it was 6 months or a year, but he did. He hardcored the weapons classes. He said, well, he goes, I can't go out. He goes, you don't have to go out and fight. You just got to train them. And then he goes, these will develop your attributes. And what happened was, his field training got better. His field training got a lot better after that. And so he never really looked back after that. He's just like, okay, well,
Strength has increased.
you know, you actually need to do it. And hang on. Well, anyways, the way he did things when he ran his own school. And again, I want to stress, I was exposed to some of this stuff, but more than maybe a lot of people in the art, but I was not exposed to it anywhere near like my buddy was. Like back in the day, I guess if you showed up at his school, and I think he talked about it in one of his videos, I might be going by what I was told. It might not have been in one of his because he had a series of like 6 or 7 training videos, and they were through Panther Production. And then years later, he did some other ones like these were a little more graphic, but he did some videos later, and I can't remember who did those. And I don't want to speak about stuff that I really don't know about or none of my business. But all I can say is something happened because it was one of his guys that like set him up. And they made these videos. Now, like the Panther Production ones, I think he was a little more involved in. But these ones here that he did, he didn't have a whole lot to do with him. He had somebody he trusted. This is my understanding. He had somebody he trusted, and this guy set him up. Well, he basically had more rights to the tapes and the source than the instructor did. And I think they had a falling out. Well, then he did some other ones after that, but there's... I don't know if they still sell them or not, but it sounded like the legal bullshit had been over. And there were like there was one video that wasn't up there anymore, and I don't know why that one got taken down. But like when you look through it, they had like 1 through 20 or 1 through 30, and like 14 or 15 was missing. There was 1 or 2 tapes in the middle that were missing. And so something happened where they were no longer selling those. They weren't even listing them on the website anymore. And I don't know what the deal was with that. And so I don't know. I literally don't know. And but he did this thing where like if you were someone that came and trained with him, what he would do is he would put some paint on the bottom of your shoes. And then you had to work the heavy bag and do this other stuff. And for every paint mark that hit the floor, you got kicked in the thigh as fucking hard as he could. And that's the way it was. And you either quit, you develop one hell of a pain tolerance in your leg, or you learn not to put your heels on the ground. Which I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, because for you to punch and for you to kick, there are certain times your heel needs to go on the ground. Like if you're rocking back and forth between a cross and a hook, your heel should be touching the ground. That's the way you ground and get some power in the punch. But that's the way it was. And I never did that, Another thing he did, and this I remember him talking about, but again, I can't remember if it was in person or if it was on one of his tapes. But what he did was, when you went out there and you knife sparred, you didn't wear gloves. You didn't have a plastic knife. It was an aluminum knife. It wasn't sharp, but it was metal. And he goes, you wore eye goggles and you wore a mouth guard because he didn't want your teeth getting fucked up. You didn't want you losing an eye. Didn't want your. But other than that, it was just hardcore. And
I am returning to town.
And that's the way it was. So if you got hit in the hand, it would usually fuck your hand up. Your hand would get cut open and all this other stuff. And that's the way he did stuff. There was more stuff like that. And again, it didn't suffer fools. It's the way it was. And I've run into other groups that are kind of like this, and there's good things about it and there's bad things about it. And when I went out and was doing my instructor training thing with him, he's got health issues now. And a lot of it is from the way he trained. And listening to him, he's like, well, yeah, you do this, you do that. And I asked him, I go, well, didn't you used to train this way? He goes, yeah, but he goes, learn from me. He goes, I have found out that you do not need that to get good. He goes, I have proven that you do not need that to get good. He goes, that's the way I thought back then. Well, there was a splinter from him. It was one, like if you go watch his early videos from the 80s, he's in some of them. And he created what they call the Dog Brothers. This is something you go look, and I don't have anything bad against them. I'm not criticizing. It's a way of training. You either like it or you don't. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. There's pluses and minuses to it. Well, some of these Dog Brothers, they go out there and they stick spar without headgear. They train a little bit like, because he was one of this guy's students or buddies or whatever, and he was there early on. Well, he kind of took it to another level with the Dog Brothers, and maybe not. He might have just taken it to the same level, but he did this with the Dog Brothers, and there was a big argument years ago. I think this would have been in the 90s. And it was the guy from the Dog Brothers, and there were two other people arguing. One of them was pro Dog Brothers, and the other one was saying, well, you really don't need that. And they were talking about this subject. And the guy from the Dog Brothers, he said, he goes, he mentioned the guy that was not really for the Dog Brothers. He said, hey, look, you might want to listen to him because he's making a little bit of a point. He goes, if you hardcore this Dog Brothers stuff, and he goes, and believe me, I've seen people do it. He goes, you can only go so far in that. It kind of limits how far, because that was what the other guy had made a comment on. And he goes, that does limit you because, there's people that are not going to stick with it who might help you if you trained with them. And he goes, and there's a lot of things you're not going to explore because you're going to be worried about getting your head taken off. And he said what he's talking about are these people that are learning from the one instructor. He goes, if I get one of them that's pretty technical, pretty highly, he goes, I can take them really far because they've already got the technical stuff down. I just got to teach the rest to them. But he said some of the people that come up on the Dog Brothers side, they're never going to get there. They're just absolutely never going to get there. And because I made the comment, there were these people back in the day that you hear about, and some of them were actually fighting during World War II. There was a World War II vet that wrote a story about his training before and during the war, and he was basically talking that you had people that would leave the sheath on their sword or whatever, they would basically keep it in the sheath so the blade wasn't exposed, and they would train real lightly. And he was talking about how good that was. And so you didn't really need to do all this shit. And but at one of these seminars, the main instructor was saying that, hey, if you're gonna do this stuff, and he really does not like to tell people what to do. Like that whole story about, I was telling you before about how, well, if you only teach part of the art, pretty soon, an art that has 10 things, people are going to think has one thing or two things in it. And he basically said, he goes, if you're teaching this, he goes, you really got to teach the whole art, don't you? And then he stopped because he doesn't like telling people what to do. And he goes, if you are in my instructor program, you better be teaching the whole thing. And but that was one of the rare times where I've actually seen him try to tell people what to do. Usually he's not. And this was kind of the one thing, same thing here. Like when it came to teaching the whole art and not bastardizing it and not leaving things out, that he was willing to tell people what to do. And then Death Orb. But when it came to like the Dog Brothers and some of the others, he's like, hey, just please wear your equipment. He didn't really, he goes, I don't really like to tell people what to do, but he goes, I'm really asking you, please wear your equipment. And he goes, at least wear the headgear.
A vicious strike.
And he said, he goes, look, I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but he goes, brain damage is forever. He goes, once you damage your brain, that's it. So he goes, I'm really asking, you know, where the headgear? And then this guy here was, it was one of his, he was an instructor under this guy. He was an instructor in his own right, but he originally started training under this guy. He worked his way up through the instructor program, starting out as an apprentice, then associate, and then he became a full instructor. And he was talking, and I don't know where he ran into it, but he ran into this group. They sparred with live knives. And they sparred with live knives, and he explained, he goes, well, when you listen to him talk about it, and he was talking about this whole Dog Brothers thing, he goes, you know, I've run into people that are worse than the Dog Brothers. He goes, they spar with live blades, and he said this is the equivalent of mountain climbing without the gear. You know, without the rappelling line and the safety lines and shit like that. And he goes, I think he said, he goes, I wouldn't climb even with it. I definitely wouldn't climb without it. But he said that's the way these guys are. They,
That ability is not yet recharged.
I want to kill Jinko or Jinkato. But he said, he goes, you know, if you looked at those guys' arms, you looked at their chest, he goes, a lot of them cheated. You know, he goes, there were some of them that were, because what they did is they had this rule where, oh, well, we spar with live blades, but we just get in there and slap you with the side of the blade. And he goes, when you look at the arms and when you look at the legs and the chests of these guys, they were cheating. Some of them were cheating. They were not slapping with the side of the blade. Apparently they were hitting with the blade. And he said, so, you know, he goes, I just, you know, he goes, I don't know what to tell you, but he goes, I don't really feel that is good for the art. I don't think it's good for some of the people. He goes, it is what it is. But that's where that guy, but again, there's these ones, and it happens that there's a group of them that do it every generation. They think the people that came before them, and some of them, like one of my instructors, he was like this. He was absolutely like this, and in his old age, with bad health, he's just like, yeah, you don't really need that to get good. You can get good without doing that. And yet there's people that he trained. There's people that came up behind him. They thought they knew better. Oh my God, what the hell does Uncle V know? And they don't listen to him. And it's like you got another generation creating victims out there. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
The storm breaks.
Come aid us.
I need to go back.
If I can, I'll do this, and then after this, I'll end the stream. And I didn't really do anything UFO on here. I'm gonna do it. I think I'll do it when I get to Minecraft. But
Your flaws flaws are revealed.
You know what cracks me up is I keep seeing on the news that there's like this record heat all over. It hasn't been too bad here. It hasn't been too bad here at all.
You are defeated. Feel the wrath of Yitar!
Oh, here we go.
Not enough spirit. It is not ready yet.
Fire consumes all.
I must wait to use that ability.
The power in my blood sings to me.
Adrian really put on some weight here. Holy shit.
I am returning to town.
Your deed new Tristan.
Nope. Nope. Okay, I will seriously try to stay on topic for UFOs. What I'm going to do is, I don't know how long of a break I'm going to take, but I'm going to go ahead and cancel this stream. I'm going to get Minecraft queued up, and then I will come back and I'll stream for as long as I can. Peace out, and if for some reason I don't make it back, I apologize, but I should be. Hope everybody has a good day.